when you're matching for culture fit, what seems very like natural and easy to do is just because you have a lot of context around it. But as you start to grow and scale and hit that next level, now you're starting to have to reach well outside of your network, and you have to be more methodical and process oriented around how you ensure that those people who you don't have all those years of experience with or context with actually are a good fit. So it's definitely become a lot more refined. I've gotten pointers and tips from RVCs, from other successful entrepreneurs along the way who have helped me out with it.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow? Developing strong leaders is something you have to think about as the leader of your fast growth company. We focus on the Inc. 5000 and the founders and CEOs of fast growth companies, and they talk about the importance of developing strong leaders. Today, we go deep into it with the CEO of Botkeeper. They were number 850 on the Inc. list. We're going to talk to Enrico Palmerino, and he's built multiple companies. Many of them have, two of them have hit the Inc. list. But I want you to think about what you're doing to develop the leaders around you. Enrico shares why questions are so important, what they really are able to do by asking the right questions and letting people figure it out for themselves. We also talk about some of the things that get in the way of common leadership and hiring the best leaders. Developing strong leaders is the topic, and today you're going to learn from Enrico. When you think about your own leadership and you think about how you're evolving, make sure you continue to put together a plan, be intentional about the skills that you're putting together so that you can evolve as the leader that your team deserves. If you want to go to my website, genehammett.com, you can actually start your journey with me and actually get on the phone and we'll talk about what your next step is. In this growth acceleration call, you will understand exactly what you need to do next. It's absolutely no cost to you, and I'm happy to serve you because you're tuning in to this podcast. Make sure you go to genehammett.com and sign up today. Now here's Enrico. Enrico, how are you?
Doing well, thank you. How about yourself?
Excited to have you on Growth Think Tank to talk about leadership and culture in fast growth companies and environments. So tell us about Botkeeper.
Botkeeper is an automated bookkeeping platform for accounting firms. And I think it combines the best of both technology, AI, machine learning with a high quality, high touch human support. So it's kind of the old adage that machines aren't perfect, neither are humans, but the combination of the two is pretty damn close to being perfect.
Well, I love the idea of this. We were talking a little bit offline here about how, integrations have made these things possible, but sometimes they make them more difficult than they should be. You've built a team around solving this problem for accounting firms and probably even companies. The team is about 200, and you made the Inc. list last year at number 850. Why do you think that was possible with your team?
I think it was awesome, and quite frankly, I was disappointed we were only 850 and not farther up the list. But I think it just ultimately comes down to we've hired extremely passionate, successful individuals in the leadership positions here at Botkeeper, and that we've made sure that they, I think like one of the first thing I'm searching for is a culture fit. So if you fit culture, next it's a skills match, and we try to find the people who fit culture the tightest and have the best skill set. But I think it just boils down to I'm not an expert at really anything these days at Botkeeper, but we've got a team who's just who are experts at the thing that they're doing and just incredibly passionate and focused on it. And you put enough passionate, focused people together that are having fun at what they're doing, and success usually comes.
Well, we've had many leaders talk about this culture fit, and you see that's important. Give us how you actually do that when you're hiring a leader. I know there's a lot of ways to do this in front line, but you're hiring an executive leader to bring in to manage a team. What does that culture fit look like for you?
So first, I'm screening on what are the drivers or the things that keep this person up at night. What do they care about? What does success look like for them? What are their goals, ambitions? How long do they see themselves at a company? Why are they even working? A lot of the people have been successful enough that they don't have to work anymore. So why do you keep doing it? And what are you chasing? What are some demons that you have inside that you want to beat off, or combat or win or claim victory over? And then I think the other thing I'm looking for is like when you think about like a few values that you live by, what are those values? And then you take a look at all those things and we decide like how closely does that match up to what we've instilled as our values in company here. And ultimately, Botkeeper's values is I think just an embodiment of myself. Like that's the one aspect of me that's, call it like larger than life. Because ultimately the first few people I hired were people who were probably like-minded like me that I knew I'd be able to work with, and now I'm just trying to instill that.
This whole concept of values in the hiring process, a lot of people don't really understand. You went through a lot of questions there that show me that you have put some thought and intention around hiring the right people. You probably also know that's probably one of the most expensive things you can do as a young company that's trying to grow fast is hire the wrong people.
Yeah.
Has this process been refined over the years, or did you just kind of come out in this company and have it more like it is today?
So it's definitely been refined over the years. I think the early stage was you're picking people that you likely know to join the company, and so it's people like close in your network. It's like friends that you've had for a while that have like succeeded at this thing that might not be your expertise, but that's their expertise. And so in the beginning or the early stages, when you're matching for culture fit, what seems very like natural and easy to do is just because you have a lot of context around it. But as you start to grow and scale and hit that next level, now you're starting to have to reach well outside of your network, and you have to be more methodical and process oriented around how you ensure that those people who you don't have all those years of experience with or context with actually are a good fit. So it's definitely become a lot more refined. I've gotten pointers and tips from RVCs, from other successful entrepreneurs along the way who have helped me out with it.
Now, when you said strong leadership, my mind immediately went to the executive leadership team. And I know there's more to leadership than just that core set of people, but I would like to focus on you hiring that executive leadership team and kind of how you're working with them on a day-to-day basis. When you think about that, did you hire them from within and train them up, or did you go outside your current team and find experts in certain individual areas and hire them, or a mixture?
I'd say a little bit of a mixture. So we definitely have on the executive leadership team people who were among the early hires here who have like proven themselves and continued to grow and scale with the business and evolve. And that's a tough thing to do, just like constantly having to like up the ante on your skill set if you don't have that track record or previous past. But there are people who are more than capable, who have proven themselves time and time again here. And then we've gone outside the company to find and hire other experts that we needed at different points in time in the business. So I'd say the combination of both.
Now hold on, Enrico just said something really interesting. He's got a mixture of people on the executive leadership team that have come from within, so he's developed them over time, and he's hired experts from the outside. Now, you want to make sure that you have both of these because they really do create the ability to grow the right team. Sometimes you have to go outside, but you also want to have a plan for developing those around you, developing their leadership skills so that they can be strong leaders and giving them a chance to, make it to the executive leadership team. It also signals to the others in the culture that there is a path forward, that they're not just going to be someone from the outside is going to be hired above them, but if they're stepping up in the right way, if they're taking ownership and they're being leaders inside their current role, they have a chance to move forward and be on the executive leadership team. Now back to the interview with Enrico. Now, when you say your job, now I'm looking at you on video, you're a pretty young looking guy. Your company's only 5 years old. Had you built an executive leadership team before?
I had. So this is my third venture. So the first company I started was, and this is probably why my expectation for the ranking on Inc. was a little bit higher, but the first company I started in my dorm room, we were 46 on the Inc. 500 list and went from like dorm room to about 8.5 million in a couple of years. So, and I look back and there's like a photo of us, and I think it was like the Wall Street Journal yeah, it was one of the newspapers. And it's like me and my business partner were like 18 years old, and everyone else is like in their, I think, 40s or older. And so we hired people who were skilled. Like we knew the tech that we were building. We knew like the vision that we had for it, how we were going to execute on this, and we had a lot of energy and like sleepless nights to like get it done. But we also knew we needed people that would make sure we don't make a whole ton of mistakes along the way.
What industry was that first business in?
Lighting. So it was, we were automating how you do lighting analysis, design, and manufacturing.
And you said this is the third venture, so there's one in between. What was that industry?
Cloud accounting. So my biggest headache with the lighting one was our accounting couldn't keep up or give, issues with accuracy or detail. And so I got into cloud accounting, and then ran into scale challenges with cloud accounting because it's heavily human dependent. And so Botkeeper emerged as a consolidator of the app stack for accountants and a way to automate a lot of the manual bookkeeping.
Well, it's good to have that history that you bring with you. So now in this new, version of company, Botkeeper, you are optimizing your executive leadership team. What does that look like? If you had to describe to me your rhythm of communication and style of communication to develop them to be stronger leaders, what would it look like?
And I'd say like I'm becoming a stronger leader. I'm learning from them. I'd say almost equal parts becoming a stronger leader as well. So we have a cadence where we meet as a team once a week to kind of do some updates and then hit on a few of the big like hot topics that have come up. And then I do one-on-ones with all my executives to spend time or focus in on I almost say like one of the screening criteria for people here is like how comfortable are you with dealing with problems, because I feel like all we deal with is problems and it's like always overcoming hurdles. So most of those one-on-ones are just talking about hurdles or challenges that might be going on in a department and how we're going to overcome it, and setting dates and timelines around when we will and what success looks like and how we avoid that same headache again. So it's I'm a sounding board. I almost feel like an instiller of tribal knowledge and just a question asker. So I think I ask a lot of questions that helps pull out some things that person probably already knew. I just made things that they might not have thought of now at the forefront of the table. And I'm just a sounding board, bounce ideas off of and give another opinion too.
Asking lots of questions sounds like you're kind of coaching them more than traditional kind of authority leadership. Have you found that to be the best way to develop the leaders around you?
Yeah, I think for me, part of our philosophy and culture is that the way to best lead people is by influencing them, not by telling them what to do. And that comes with collaboration. Like I'd rather have you be the one that comes up with the idea and it be an idea that I might have come to the table with, but I get you to see it as your idea. And that kind of style takes a little bit longer because you're like trying to pull it out of them. You like know that that the other person across the room would come at the same answer potentially, or they come up with something that's better and now you didn't go and tell them what you think the answer is and they take it for granted. So yeah, it's like prying and trying to understand all the inner workings and the details and explore it. And either someone follows your path to the solution or they take a different path and maybe it's a better one than yours was, kind of coming to the table.
Now, hold on for a second. Enrico just talked about the need to influence others instead of telling them what to do. Now, this whole idea of influencing them can take many shapes and forms, but one of the most powerful way to influence others is to ask questions that allow them to figure it out for themselves. We've talked about it in this episode, but I just want to put a spotlight on it for a second. If you aren't, developing your own skills to coach people to higher levels of confidence, courage, and even clarity in what to do and how to solve these problems, you're actually making it harder for yourself. And the real key here is to slow down, ask the right questions, let them figure it out for themselves, and support them when they get stuck, but not to solve the problem for them. When you become that kind of coach, that is the type of leadership that people admire, they feel fulfilled around, they feel like they're growing, and you will get better performance out of the people around you, and you will be judged as a stronger leader because you help them figure it out instead of just telling them what to do next. Now back to the interview with Enrico. We haven't said this today, but a lot of my interviews end up at the same place. It sounds like when you're asking these questions, you're really trying to get them to take ownership of kind of what the issue is so that they can actually own the process to get there. Do you think about this sense of ownership in your leadership very much?
I think it's important. I think people want to be empowered. They want to feel like they have meaning. They want to feel like, they've got purpose and that they've impacted and influenced the success of the business. And so, if I'm just coming and just saying, we're going to do this and this and this and this, and you're just kind of like, showing up and following a drill, that's not super fun. And you don't really feel dedication or commitment to it. And I also think that, like, the reality is I don't have all the right answers. So I shouldn't be coming to you with a laundry list of what should be done. I should be sitting down and asking you what you think should be done and asking you, like, why you think that, and are you sure that's the right way? And just kind of like probing deeper and deeper, and eventually finding finding the solution in you. And maybe I'm like, oh, that's awesome. I actually kind of thought a similar thing. Look, here's a model I put together about it. And what do you think? And my goal is to have an outcome be whatever I think is the answer, that I leave walking out with something that's probably a little bit different than what I came in with. And that usually means we found the right thing.
I love this approach, and I even have to work on it with my clients in this executive coaching that I do is helping them not solve the problem, but actually just help the person that they're leading understand and solve the problem for themselves. And it's very dangerous. This happens all the time in sales. You take the high performing salesperson and they become a leader or manager of sales, and all of a sudden they just want to tell them what to do next. But that's actually the most ineffective way to actually lead and develop people. When you're doing this, Enrico, did you learn this through the other companies you've gone, or is this something you've really kind of attached yourself in this version of your entrepreneurship journey?
I think I've evolved over time. So I think I used to be a very controlling person initially, and want to, like, group work meant like, I'm going to do my piece of the part like really, really well, and here you go, to being much more like, let's work together really as a group. And instead of putting like assembling a bunch of individually contributed pieces as a group project, like actually collaborating, and the outcome just always looks so much better when there's like real collaboration and real work together. It's just more cohesive, and it tends to be, there's more passion and I think fire in it. And what I've found is that, the reality is, like, if I start coming to people with all the answers, then I'm literally just going to be dragged into everything. Like, I don't want to be. I want to be focused on raising more capital, like speaking to the market as like my vision of how this is going to play out and where I think it's going. And that, to do that, I need to be freed up. And to be freed up, I need my leadership team to be able to think on their own and make decisions on their own and feel comfortable doing it, and not feel like they have to run everything by me or ask me for the answers.
Enrico, I've recently launched a series around optimizing your time as a CEO. What would you say has been the most impactful, kind of strategy that you've been able to implement that optimize your own time as a CEO?
So I spend real time trying to figure out, like, what are the 2 or 3 things I'm going to do on a quarterly basis that are going to move the needle, and maybe like what's the 2 or 3 things I'll do over the course of the year that will move the needle. And none of those things should involve me doing anything operational. So it's like, from a partnership standpoint, who can I work with to land a big partnership with the company that will get us there? And that means, how do I enable or support the existing teams that are already working on partnerships like that? And how do I provide the air cover, or how do I give a talk somewhere that influences them partnering with us because they see us as a thought leader? So, for me, it's I got to free up my time. So I got to hire smart people who can think on their own. I got to enable them to think on their own. I got to get out of their way so they can do it. And then let me just be a sounding board and help out when they need. And that will let me work on these big projects.
If you're listening on iTunes today, then make sure you go to YouTube and find us there. You can go to genehammett.com/YouTube. We have some special content only on YouTube that will help you be the visionary leader that your team deserves. Just go to genehammett.com/YouTube. That's an absolutely mature way to look at it. And I help a lot of people find that when you think about how the businesses have evolved, once you've started putting this into place, what would we see? I mean, you actually doing these kinds of projects and not being dragged into the operations.
So I think the funniest thing is, like, I see it's like, I think a constant, roller coaster of like my time. I slowly will get pulled into stuff, and then I hire someone to like take me out of it. And then all of a sudden I see personally like a lot of freed up time, a lot less stress, a lot more success. And we're moving faster at that thing than it was moving when I was involved in it. And the irony too is like our VCs like see me as a better CEO. So the more I hire really smart people to do all the work for me, the more I'm seen as like a great CEO, because I'm not trying to get bogged down in the weeds, or I'm not trying to, I think, control every aspect. And the reality is it just boils down to, I'm one person. I can't be an expert at anything, unless that's the only thing I'm doing. And being a CEO means you really can't. Like, the only thing you should be doing is raising capital, being a thought leader, and being a sounding board to other experts you bring in. And so I got to find and hire the experts that just care about that one thing that they're doing, and they obsess about it, and we'll crush it.
Enrico, thank you so much for being a part of Growth Think Tank to talk about how you've structured your own leadership and evolved as a leader to grow a company that has been able to make this Inc. list. I'm sure we'll see you again, probably in this company for a little more while longer. And
then we got a few more years to go.
We'll see you in another company down the road. So thank you for being here. Let me just wrap this up for the audience here. If you have learned something today about your own leadership, about your evolving aspect, whether it be finding people to invite on the journey and the culture fit of this, or maybe it's just how you've learned to really develop leaders by asking questions. I want you to ask yourself this big question: who do you need to be the leader that your company deserves? When you think about your leadership and growing to the next level, my job as an executive coach is to help you do that and help you really push yourself and challenge yourself to evolve, just like our guest today has talked about. So make sure you can keep tuning in to these episodes. And if you want to find more details about how to evolve as a leader, go to genehammett.com, find free resources there where you can be a visionary leader. When you think about growth, when you think about culture, think of Growth Think Tank. As always, lead with courage. We'll see you next time.